guys, this is Courtney, and this is my presentation on the rainforest of Atsinanana in Madagascar. This site was listed as a World Heritage List in danger in 2010 and is still on that list. So, a little bit of background about Madagascar's protected area management systems. From 1927, when the first protected areas were set aside by the French colony, until the 1990s, a lot of their protected areas featured a fortress conservation model. So they were set aside mostly for scientific research, biodiversity conservation, and definitely excluded local communities and anyone from entering in those protected areas. So there are two major paradigm shifts that have occurred since the 1920s. The first one around 1991 that had a new integrated model of protected area management with an expansion of IUCN category types. So rather than being strict nature reserves, and now we were seeing more integrated protected areas. Though they still heavily focus on tourism and generating revenue rather than practicing good governance. So a lot of that revenue was not going back into the indigenous communities. The second shift happened in 2003 in what's been coined the Durban Vision. So after the World Parks Congress in Durban, South Africa, the president declared that Madagascar would attempt to achieve 10% of its area as protected land. And this was resonating with a lot of the mission at the Congress of all nations achieving this 10% of protected area, and that conservation should not compromise poverty alleviation. And so this was really big for Madagascar as one of the poorest countries in the world. So once the president came back, there were a lot of improvements to the protected areas, which included lowering the hurdles for areas to be considered protected and to be nominated as protected. The rainforests were inscribed onto the World Heritage List in 2007. And this is because that Madagascar, as an island, has a high rate of endemism, so species that are found nowhere else in the world, so plants and animals alike. So this really set up the rainforest to becoming the second World Heritage Site in Madagascar under Criteria 9 for its importance towards ecological processes, and Criteria 10 for conserving its biodiversity. So the site was actually nominated as a serial nomination, which means that there are multiple national parks within the rainforest that were inscribed. And so this was really difficult for the IUCN Technical Committee when they visited and critiqued it, because it was difficult to critique it as the site as a whole, rather than each component, each national park in their role. And so they also decided not to critique the site, the rainforest, based on the corridors at the time that connected each of these national parks, which I wonder if these should have been considered more, because a lot of these corridors were only temporarily protected or newly protected and did not actually have long-term goals for protection in mind, which would increase the risk of each of these national parks becoming isolated in the future. The rainforests are managed as an IUCN Category 2, which are national parks. So each component of the rainforest is a national park. And as you see in the image on the left, it's a pretty complicated image of all of the protected areas in Madagascar. But there are actually 8 national parks that are listed there. And there were originally 8 national parks that were going to be a part of the rainforest of Atsinanana. But now there are currently only 6. But I just wanted to show this because this demonstrates the geographic distribution of the parks, and then some of the corridors that, with the intention of connecting these parks together. So the The parks themselves are managed by a private organization, the Madagascar National Parks. And so this private organization is set up that it can work closely with NGOs and local communities more so than if it was governed by the government of Madagascar. The rainforests are in no shortage of challenges over the last decade plus since its inscription. So one of these challenges being that it's a poor nation, it's one of the poorest in the world. Another one was the rapid increase in protected areas in 2003 to present, occurring after the Durban Vision. But one of its greatest challenges is its political instability since 2009 when a coup changed the nature of democracy within the country. So, following this coup, there was a spike in illegal exporting of rosewood and ebony to China, and the rainforests were then inscribed onto the World Heritage List in danger in 2010, just 3 years after its inscription in 2007. And so, even though there were a lot of movements towards lowering the illegal exporting, many Democrats and even the Minister of Environment, Ecology, and Forests were believed to be accepting money from traders, a part of the illegal exporting. Some of the threats to the rainforest's outstanding universal value are deforestation, animal capture, which includes poaching, and artisanal mining. So, deforestation is the main reason that it's listed as a World Heritage List in danger after the coup in 2009 and illegal logging spiked. But it also includes the loss of relic forest from slash and burn for agriculture. Animal capture for bushmeat is twice as high in urban areas, or the demand is higher in urban areas than the rural communities outside of the forest. And the pet trade has also increased recently in the last few years. And so this is a threat because lemurs are part of the pet trade and collection for bush meat, and they are considered a keystone species for the rainforest and their role for ecosystem services such as pollination and seed dispersal. Other animals, a part of this, are the tortoises and several species of frogs that are endemic to Madagascar and are protected, that are being caught from the wild and traded around the world. And then the third one is artisanal mining, which is small scale mining. And even though this is considered small scale, it'll still bring in thousands of miners into these national parks in search for sapphire, gold, and any other minerals that are known to be within that park. Two major actions taken jointly by the World Heritage Committee and the IUCN occurred in 2011 and then again in 2015 when they did site visits for a reactive monitoring mission. And so, from both of these missions, the WHC and IUCN came up with four resulting indicators for a desired state of conservation to delist the rainforest from the World Heritage List in danger. And so three of them were listed in 2011, and then a fourth was added in 2015. And these include stopping illegal exploitation in all six of the components of the rainforest, and that the forest clearing doesn't exceed 0.01% per year, which, as of the recent state of conservation report, the rainforests have actually achieved this, but the World Heritage Committee would still like to see more data supporting that from gap years where data is missing. And then the elimination of poaching of lemurs. So there's a lot of secondary impacts from the clearing of the forest that have made sites more accessible, which has increased poaching and the illegal trade of animals caught from the rainforest. And then more effort towards restoring ecologically the degraded areas of the rainforest, which is also being taken on by the rainforest of Latsinanana.